Hello class, this is a review from today's lesson, in case you missed it or wanted to take some extra notes. Today we discussed William Shakespeare, just an intro to his life and some of his plays and things like that. So first I wanted to give you some details about him. William Shakespeare was born April 16th, 1564, and he died April 23rd, 1616. Just 3 days short of his 53rd birthday. He was married to Anne Hathaway, who is in no relation to the movie star, and they had 3 kids, Susan, Hamnet, and Judith. And I also went over a couple of myths that are associated with William Shakespeare and his plays. The first one would be elitism. People often think that his plays were, for the wealthy, that the wealthy went and saw them, but really he made most of his money on the penny section, which was the front section right in front of stage. And, you think that he's appealing to the upper class also because of the way that they spoke, but really he was appealing to the general public. It was more the way that they spoke. Another myth that there is the correct interpretation. Like, there is one certain interpretation, but that's not true because no one really knows exactly how he wanted his plays to be acted, and that's why there's so many different adaptations to all of his plays. And sometimes people also think that there's an obstacle to the enjoyment of his plays. If you can't understand the language, you won't understand the play. But it's really that you just need to take your time, and if you buy the right books, you can. The right books that we're going to be using in our class, the Folgers edition, they all come with the language already spelled out for us. So if there's any words that we don't understand, we can just take a look. There are also some things online. I know we're not supposed to use SparkNotes, but No Fear Shakespeare is on SparkNotes, and you can see, if you ever have any trouble, you can see both sides of it with the language that we use now. Okay, so I'm just going to go into a couple more things. When Shakespeare's plays were released before the ones that were released before his death, they were called the Quarto. They were paperback, and it was only half of the plays. And then we have the Folio, which was released in 1623, which is 7 years after his death. And that's the first folio that was published then, and most of today's versions of the play come from that folio. He originally, people divided his plays into 3 different kinds: the comedy, the tragedy, and the history plays. This is a little bit funny because usually most of the plays have a mixture. Often the comedies are also tragedies, and the histories have a bit of comedy. It just depends. Another interesting thing to note about Shakespeare is that he did not create the plots for most of his plays. He actually borrowed most of them. And conspiracy theorists often think that he didn't write all of his plays entirely. They think that he stole them entirely. But it's actually interesting, a few of them, to be able to, if you research, you can find the original plays, and it's actually really interesting to read them. As for example, The Taming of the Shrew. There's a really, really graphic, the play that it's based on, the story it's based on, is super graphic and not close to being as funny. Another thing you need to be aware of are the different types of language that he uses. He often draws on military, legal, commercial, agricultural, political, biblical, and mythical and medical terminologies. So if there's something you don't understand, it's probably just because it's a different type of it's a different type of terminology. So that's something you have to get used to. And also we have the obsolete words are often footnoted, and as I was talking about earlier, those are the ones that are footnoted. So just pay attention for those. And also, his plays are all written in different mixed poetry. For example, he'll have blank verse, prose, and rhyme all on the same page in the plays. And it just depends on who's speaking. The rich often speak in one type of verse, and the poor often speak in another, and that really just depends on the play. He switches it up often. Another thing to pay attention to is that he uses thou and thee, and it's good to remember that thou is the familiar and thee is the unfamiliar. So those are the few things that we covered today. Don't worry too much. We'll probably end up approaching these things again in class again as they come up. So just be prepared, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.